This is Get Sellers Calling You, and I'm Beatty Carmichael. Learn more at our website at getsellerscallingyou.com.
So, our agreed subject was the best practices to consistently get more listings into 090. That I'm sure our listeners and viewers want to do that. So, how are we going to start the conversation? Where do you want to go with this?
Probably let's start at the beginning of, if you're going to be starting to drive in sellers and get more listings, where do you start? And the first place is obviously a personal list. So maybe we can just start on the personal list and a few things you can do on that.
Yeah, that sounds great. Off you go.
Okay, great. So first off, a personal list is that list of people that you know. And what I find with most agents is they try to pre-qualify a list. Don't do that, okay? What you're looking for is very simply make a list of everyone who knows you, that if they were to see you on the street, they go, "Hi, Jill," or "Hi, Beatty," okay? And that becomes your personal list. And here's why it's so important. Those people who know you already, they already know and like you, are 8 to 10 times more likely to do business with you than someone who hasn't met you yet. So if you're trying to drive in more business from sellers or buyers, that's the place to start first. And so make a list. One of the things that, if you're just getting started, if you think about the old time yellow pages, you have like accountant, actuarial, baker, chiropractor. Just go through those type of topical indexes and think of, who do I know that's a accountant? Who do I know that's a baker? Who do I know that's a chiropractor? And build your list. And then and that's going to be the first start in getting that direction.
And it's so important, and I'm aghast at so many agents that are reasonably successful that haven't really concentrated on building this fundamental list, and it's so important, isn't it?
It is. I was talking just a short while ago. One of our clients, he's a 30-plus year agent. Does 18 million a year in volume, and he's in this coaching program, okay? And so the coach got all their coaching clients together, which are all very similar to this person, and they went around the group and asked, in 2018, where did most of your business come from? And you want to take a guess as to where the majority of their business came from?
Their list?
Their personal list, exactly. And so if that's how top producers are getting there and sustaining their business, then whether you're a top producer or whether you're just getting started, that's the number one place that you'll get the most business from if you simply work it right.
And in some ways, it's a lot easier, isn't it? You've got your smartphone, you've got your Facebook, people that are following you on Facebook, various computer, people that the ability for you to generate this list is in some ways a lot easier, isn't it?
It is. So, you've got, most people already have their Facebook with all their friends, okay? So all you have to do is real simple. Now, having a list, I was talking to one client and I was asking him, how many people do you have on your list? 400 people. Great. How many of those do you have mailing addresses with? Well, none of them. They're all on Facebook, okay? So you've got to have more than just a Facebook contact with them. And so as you're building your list, just go through and either text them or message them through Facebook and say, "Hey, John, what's your mailing address?" Okay? Or if you're missing an email address, what's your email address? And just go through and systematically start to build it. But what you want is you want their name, a phone number, a mailing address, and an email address, because if you're going to touch your list properly, you're going to touch it with some phone calls periodically and just be personal. You're going to send them something in the mail. You'll probably put them on some sort of an email system. So you just need multiple ways just to kind of touch them so that you now are able to communicate with them.
Yeah, you just touched upon what I was going to ask you, the follow-up question, after you got your list, what do you do with it? But you've already touched that. But what I think another good question is, have you got any advice about how you make the follow-through you've just described really a habit? Because I think a lot of agents get into training methodologies with all the goodwill, but after a few weeks, the new habits break down. They don't follow through. So have you got any tips and insights about how you make, this kind of methodologies of regular follow through on your personal list really effective?
Yeah, I do, because I've actually just come through that personally with something we've done in our business. So, excuse me, we put together on our end basically a list of clients that we want to be following up with. And how do you do it? So what I had to do for me, and this is the simple way that I would suggest it, is hopefully you have a to-do list that you make every morning or the night before, so you know the target of what you have to do for that day. And what stays a permanent item on my to-do list that I keep putting at the top is to touch, okay? So as long as you keep it in front of you, then you're going to be more likely to do it. The other thing is when you're touching, a lot of times agents ask me, well, what do you do when you touch? Well, the first thing you do is you just stay a friend, okay? If you know their birth date or an anniversary date, or if you know their children's birth date or anything like that, then that gives you a reason to just pick up the phone and call. You may miss them, but leave a voicemail message, right? Write a handwritten note. Hey, understand it's your birthday. Happy birthday to you. Sorry I missed you, but I was just thinking about you. When you do a personal touch, it goes a long ways. So when you do this reminder for you, then also in your calendar on anything that's special with any of these contacts, put a reminder in your calendar to always prompt you on that day. These contacts have birthdays or anniversaries, or maybe someone that bought a home from you or sold their home and it's kind of a transaction anniversary. Make the list so that it prompts you. And then the most important thing is you got to be diligent to do it that day. Because if you kick it down the road a day, you'll kick it down the next day, and before long, you're not touching anyone.
Right. Robert, have you got a question?
Nope, just nodding, just agreeing.
Oh.
No question.
No question here. Pop in when he's got one. All
That's
right.
right.
So,
Hey, let me share one other thing on that too, if I may. So, not all touches are the same, and so when you're marketing to your personal list, there are really two things that you're doing. Number one is you're staying personal with them as a friend, okay? Because people do business with people they like. But the other thing that's really important is you have to let them know not only that you're a real estate agent, but that you're an agent who is selling homes. And so here's the kind of the scenario I'd like to suggest. Most people out there know many real estate agents, okay? So you're competing against other real estate agents that your friends know. So if you were to put two agents, if I'm thinking about selling my house or buying, and I have two agents that I know, if I know one is constantly selling all the time and only know that the other one is an agent, but I don't know how active they are, which of those agents am I going to most likely choose?
well, I would have thought you're going to choose the one that shows that they're very active in the market.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you show that you're active in the market? It's real simple. You always show off your sales to your list. So the first thing on your list with that mailing address, you ought to be sending them just sold postcards every time you make a sale, okay? Unless you're making more than 15 or 20 sales a year, and then you maybe cap it at a certain level. If you don't have many sales right now because you're kind of a newer agent, then every time you make a sale, you show it off. Every time you get a listing, you send out a new listing. Okay, you send out an open house. You send out a under contract, and then you send out a just sold. So you can get multiple touches showing off your successes from just a few sales. But what that does psychologically in your friends' minds is this person's really active, and it keeps you top of mind as that agent who's actually out there doing stuff.
Yeah, because with me and Robert have been touching it, this subject ourselves about being super local, and we're going to be talking about it in February. But it's all kind of linked, isn't it, BT? Because in past episodes we've been talking about doing videos about the local market, specialising in a a particular type of customer or a particular geo area in your local region. And then what you're talking about is reinforcing that with success, messages of success, but also, would you agree with me that you should be also fulfilling that with content that proves your competence and your interest in that market?
Yes, very much so, because I just finished doing a video with one of our clients on something very similar. And so as you're doing these videos that show that you're an expert in the market, the other thing I would encourage that you do is that you share some of your expertise on how to either buy a house at the lowest rate so you get the greatest value, or if you're selling a house, things you can do to increase the sales price and the value. Because then as people watch your video, they're not just seeing your expertise on the market in general, but they're seeing your expertise in the transaction. Things that you do that you recommend your clients to do that will get them the best value when they're buying a home. Okay, like one of my when we bought the home that I'm in now, it's on a private drive. There's a couple other homes, and the private drive was kind of in bad condition. So we were able to negotiate down the sales price even further by taking that into account. And when you net it all out, it really helped us financially to then have money to do other things that we needed to. So talk about your expertise in the negotiation to get that sales price down and some things you can do. But also on the flip side, for those people who may have a home and would think about selling, give them some tips that you find are most effective in getting the most money for that home when they actually do put it on the market. Now they're seeing you as an expert in the marketplace, but they're also seeing you an expert in being able to help the transaction in their favor.
Yeah, and I also think don't matter how busy you are, you've got to get in the habit of doing a video walkthrough of a new house that you're trying to sell for a client, and also do a after sale walkthrough after you sold the house and talk about the actual the process of selling the house. People just love seeing houses and the stories around the buying and selling of houses, don't they? They just love it, don't they?
They do. And if you have a chance when you're doing those walkthrough videos, let me encourage you to maybe do a walkthrough video before it goes on the market, while it's in the what I'll call kind of the current lived-in state. And you might even do this with your client. You walk through and video. I recommend you make these updates here and here, and maybe paint this room. And then after you sold the house or when it's on the market, you can do a second walkthrough, and now you have a comparison. Now what happens is people get to see your expertise in taking a home that looks lived in and making it look brand new. So, or if you don't have that luxury, but you do a walkthrough after the fact, then point out those things that you guided the homeowner on, that the homeowner then took your advice. Because now what this is telling the viewer is you're the expert. They took your advice, and because of that, they sold their home for top dollar. And that's what they're looking for ultimately with a realtor. Can you get the most money for my home? And that's how you can use those walkthrough videos to do that.
Oh, it's great stuff. We're going to go for a break, folks, but when we come back, we're going to be discussing more of this great content with Beatty Carmichael, and I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic, give you some great ideas to start your 2019 really great. We'll be back in a few moments, folks.
You're listening to the Get Sellers Calling You podcast. To increase sales from past clients and sphere of influence or from a geographic farm, learn about Agent Dominator. We guarantee your sales in writing or give your money back. To learn more, visit our website at getsellerscallingyou.com and select Agent Dominator from the menu. And now, back to the podcast.
We're coming back. I'm feeling a little bit more cheaper than the past couple of weeks. As you know, listeners, I've been struggling with a bad cough and cold, but I feel more my cheerful self. Aren't I, Robert?
Yeah, you're strutting your stuff today. I'm enjoying it.
Oh, he's enjoying it. Oh, dear. All right, I must be into trouble. Beatty. So, we talked a bit about videos. We've talked about this initial list that people know you in the community, and you keep that list tight to you. Like I say, we've talked about the power of video. How we're going to move the conversation? What's the next topic that you would like to introduce to listeners and viewers?
I'd like to talk about where I think real low-hanging fruit that a lot of realtors totally miss it. They do it all the time, but they don't know how to turn it into generating more listings as well, and that's the open house. So have y'all had any conversations on open houses before?
Constantly.
It's been a constant discussion fight I've had with agents that are not beginners. Let's say they're in their second to fourth year. They're looking to really move their business on to the next level. The top producers that they see in their offices. And they get very dismissive of open houses they are introduced to very negative attitudes by their fellow agents, the more experienced agents, about that open houses are just time wasters. And I totally disagree with that attitude completely. What do you? I presume that you're going to agree with me because that's why you brought it up.
Actually, I agree with those other agents. Open houses are absolute time wasters unless you do it right. Okay, so you got to look at why are you doing the open house? And so here's what happens. Those more tenured agents, higher producers, they don't want to go sit in a house for 2 or 3 hours on a Saturday or Sunday and waste their time and fiddle on their phone trying to sell the house, because you don't sell houses that much that way. People find the house on the internet and then they strategically come. But the great thing, and this is what most agents lose sight of with the open house is a way to generate new seller leads. Okay, and if you do it right, but it's going to take a little bit of effort. But here, before I go there, let me just ask a question to you guys. If you could spend 4 hours to pick up a new listing, is it worth it?
Oh,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So spend 4 hours. You spend 2 hours before the open house, door knocking the neighborhood, as many houses as you can. You have a flyer about the open house. It's going to have your information on it. Even if this is an open house that someone else is listing, but you're doing the open house on, okay? And you go and introduce yourself. Hey, I'm Beatty Carmichael with such and such realty company, and I don't know if you know it or not, but we have this house that we're doing an open house right around the corner from you. And I'd love to invite you, especially if you guys are thinking about selling. It's important to see what houses in the neighborhood are going for, how they're fixed up, and it'll give you a lot of ideas, maybe some things you can do with your house as well. If you know someone that is thinking about moving in a neighborhood, you know, a lot of times about a third of the buyers are invited by friends that want their friends in the neighborhood. Please call some of your friends, but here's a flyer, and hopefully I'll see you. Okay, so you're just.
Can I just say something? I just think it's fantastic, but this. I'm struggling now, but because I'm celebrating what you've just said. But you can use Facebook to also promote the open house. You know, like 5-6 days before the open house. It should be an event. You're in theatre when you're a real estate agent. You're there. You're in the entertainment business, the local entertainment business in a way. So you want a good open house. You know, you want some nibbles. You want not alcohol, but you know, nice coffee. You want, it wants to be a friendly vibe, and you want to get people's details when they come to the open house. It needs to be an event. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it needs to be an event. I look at it as more than just an event. It is a prospecting tool to find sellers initially. Okay. So you want to promote it everywhere you can, because when you're promoting it on Facebook, what happens is you're showing everyone on Facebook that you're an active agent. That's important. When you promote it to all your friends, you're letting them know, I am selling homes. I go out and I do open houses. That's going to help sell your home, because that's what the homeowner thinks. Okay. But the real key is when you go meet the neighbors, because if you think about circle farming concept, with around every home that goes on the market and sells, within a few months, within 50 homes, there's usually another home that goes on the market, but you don't know who they are. But if you go and knock on the doors, okay, you leave a flyer for those that aren't there, you leave a flyer for those that are there, then what you're doing is you're basically saying, and this is what I was talking about, if you're thinking about selling, you need to see what your competition is doing. You need to see what people are looking at, what prices are in this neighborhood, and how people are fixing up their home. So I'm giving that homeowner reasons to come look at the house, because in their mind, they're thinking about going on the market in a few months. So now when I get a neighbor to come through the house, in almost all cases, that person is thinking about selling, and now I'm able to build a relationship, get their information, and now I can follow up. And here, back my first comment, once someone has met you and they know you and they put a name and a face and a personality and they like you, they are 8 to 10 times more likely to do business with you than someone who's never met you. So simply by doing 2 hours of door knocking and then bringing whoever that is into the open house, now you've got an opportunity to build that relationship and then pick up that listing.
I'm amazed at the amount of open houses that I go to that the agent hasn't even got any handouts. They haven't even got reports, bio about themselves, about how many houses they sold the year before, what type of clients they like to work with. They have nothing. They don't even make sure they've got handouts.
Do you know why?
What?
Go ahead.
Robert.
Why? But I'm going to jump in and after you, though, Beatty. Why?
Okay. Great little book called Rhinoceros Success. Okay. And it talks about cows and rhinos. And cows follow the crowd. They don't have any idea why they're doing it. Rhinos follow their own horse, their beat to their own drum. And what happens with most realtors is they simply do what they see everyone else doing. And they never think about it that says, why do you do it that way? And how can I work smarter and not harder? And that's why they do it. My sister-in-law, hope she's not watching this video, she is a new agent and she's doing everything that other people tell her to do, following the crowd, but she's not doing anything that really makes it more effective, more efficient, and drive in more business, because agents aren't marketers. That's a big reason.
Go on, Robert.
Yeah. There's a few things that I'm gonna add to that. Number one, as I've been in sales 30 years, and here's one thing that's true of anything: real estate, in any sales office, sales environment. Most of the time, the person that you can't talk to, the person that you don't see, the person that would be most impactful. Top producers, like I've always been the top producer or somewhere close to it in every office. I don't have any interest in training new guys unless I'm going to be paid for it, and the company never wants to pay for it. So I'm never around. I'm never actually physically there to do it, nor do I sit next to them. And half the time I'm out the door selling my own business and doing my own thing. And the same thing is 10 times as true in real estate, because a lot of top-notch real estate professionals, they don't even go to the office. They don't sit on the sales floor. They're not at the open houses. You can't see what they're doing, to address what Beatty said about cows. In terms of open houses, because we keep talking about them and there's a lot of conversation. So I totally agree with what Beatty said about knocking on the door. And what I also suggest is that you make a micro business plan when it comes to the way that you approach an open house. And what I mean by that is take a spreadsheet, take a list, and then simply go down and say, these are the things that I am going to do for every open house that I ever approach. And one of those things, by the way, I do love every idea that Beatty had, but another idea is to do open house sign-up sheets. If worked right, an open house can add 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 medium to low warm contacts to your list, which is something that Beatty keeps talking about over and over again. So you want to walk in mentally prepared. It's worth it to create a strategy to create a good value exchange for somebody signing your open house list. And what could that be? There could be pins. It could be any number of small giveaways, something that you spent 10 cents to $1 on in order to get them to sign something or give you their information. It could be exclusive information about the house. It could simply be an attitude of assumption, which is what I like to tell my clients to use, which is simply you walk through the door, you walk up to them and simply hand them the sheet and hand them the pen 9 times out of 10, most people will understand what you're doing and understand that you've taken your time to set the environment up for them, and they won't question the fact that they actually have to write down their name, email address, and telephone number. Thus, you get every single name and number of the person that walks into the door in the open house. So I agree with what both of you said, that open houses are valuable. I think they're wildly valuable, and I think somebody with a little bit of an initiative won't just get 1 or 2 leads. They'll get a whole bunch of them that they can then add into their CRM.
So, Beatty, like I was going to say, I'm going to say something a little bit controversial. Obviously, it's a commission-only business, and getting those commission checks is really important, especially if you're not getting them. But I don't think it's about sales. I think it's about having conversations. I think it's having, and you're not having enough conversations, and it's about generating one-to-one conversations and showing your competence. What do you think?
I think you're right. I think I'm not sure you can put it in a very narrow bucket on anything, but the most important part is they've got to feel like you trust, that they trust you and you care for them. And it's interesting, people will go towards someone that they feel cares for them more than they feel someone has definitely the expertise, but they may treat them as if they don't care. And so that relationship, that one-on-one conversation you're talking about, is super important. And that's the thing that most agents, I think, miss with their personal list. They look at their list as a prospect list, and so they treat it mentally as business. And once you start to treat it only as business and you lose that personal touch, that one-on-one-ness, then you lose the greatest asset you have. People do business with people they like and people they trust and people that they feel like and trust them back.
Yeah, I think it's something kind of English cultural, because I kind of struggle with that last bit. They're people that I kind of see it is that they're people that trust you, that know they might not be kind of your friend, but they know that you're there for the long term, that you're serious about your business, and you're not going to con them, and you're going to try your best for that particular client. And you're effective, and you really serious about what you're doing. Are we talking the same thing, or do you think it's cultural as well?
I think we're actually talking on different things, but they're all headed to, sort of like the old adage, all roads lead to Rome. Okay, in order to make that sell, maybe like this way so we can see it. In order to make that sell, which is this transaction, we have all these tentacles that keep coming in, and it's not one or the other. It's a whole multitude. So the comment that you're making, one of my clients, one of the things that we're promoting for one of his marketing is the headline says, "I gave up $15,000 commission on the sale because of my integrity," okay, or something like that. And then the story starts to go in that he's selling this home, and there are 2 buyers that offered contracts, his buyer and another buyer. And he could have persuaded the seller to choose his buyer, which would have given him $15,000 more in commission. But because of his integrity, when he went to present the offers, he's actually got his office manager, the broker, to come over and sit down and watch the presentation of both contracts to ensure that he was not biased one against the other, so that the seller could make a pure decision. And because of that, he lost the deal because the other offer was actually a better one. So when people know that you trust them, that if people trust you, they like you, those are the personal conversations. But then they also know your professional integrity, your ethic. They know your professional expertise. They know your drive. So all of these are the different tentacles that start to build this picture of who you are in that person's mind. And I think it's the totality of all of that that starts to give them the confidence that they would be a fool to choose anyone else besides you because of all of this that they know and experience about you. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. I've got another question. the real estate agent business is a tough business. It's commission only. It's tough. There's a lot of negativity in offices and in general. There seems to be, especially when you're trying to break through to get to that level of sustainability and or get to the next level. And then you got the top agents, and this is just a generality. They can be a bit aloof, a bit arrogant, not have that what we've just discussed. So first of all, how do you keep yourself in the right mindset? And secondly, how do you try, if you do get some real success, not become one of these arrogant, aloof agents?
Gosh, that's a great question. It goes, it's a deep answer, I think. The way you keep yourself in the right mindset is you always keep your eyes on the goal. So I've actually been in business for 20 years. I've had some big highs. I've had some big lows. One low was actually almost turned it into bankruptcy. But the thing that hit me is I actually had a friend ask me, how do you keep going? How do you keep your attitude always focused and you never give up, even in the tough times? And I think the way that you do that is you always have a goal that you're reaching for that's so important that you actually believe you can hit, that you'd be a fool to give up on it. And that keeps you going during the tough times. Also, in terms of the attitude of being stuck up or that persona that sometimes we see with those higher producing agents.
Yes, I'm the top agent in my office, and
Yeah.
I'm a top producer, and I don't deal with you're too low a quality of client for me to actually work with.
Well, when you get that way, you're going to start losing. Bible says pride comes before the fall. Okay, so it's easy to say, and especially if you're a driver, then being number one is real important to you and kind of comes out in your attitude. But you always have to remember that being number one is based on helping lots of little people succeed in their transactions, and so I've got a real story because my wife's cousin by marriage is one of the top 15 or 20 agents in America. By herself, no team. In Alabama, she did like 85 or 90 million dollars in volume last year. Okay, and so at one time we were going to sell our house, and I was telling her, I don't know if you deal with houses like ours. It's only like $300,000 or $400,000. And she goes, well, I'll sell any house. And, for her, it's all about, it's another transaction. It's not, I only sell houses at a certain level. In fact, she and another agent were competing years back on a house that I think was only a $100,000 house. But there's just that competition that any sale is a good sale.
I like that. I like that a lot. That's a great story.
Got a last question for Beatty, Robert?
Do I?
Yes, because you've been a bit silent during this.
Well, I know I have. So if I had any one question, I don't think it would be related directly to the topic. I think that my question, my curiosity, I've come to appreciate your personality. This is our third show together, and I've noticed that you, whether it's true or not, you come across as a dedicated, kind of hardworking guy. And I'm curious to know, because I've owned 7 businesses. This is my 7th that I'm on, and I bootstrapped all of them. And 1 or 2 of them ended in complete and utter disaster. One of those 2 businesses was actually the hardest personal hit I ever took. I had partners. The business was making a lot of revenue. I really thought it was going quite well. And in the 9th hour, one of the partners pulled out suddenly, and unfortunately it was the financial partner. And even though the rest of the business was actually doing quite well, it was like somebody pulled the carpet out from underneath us. And it was a real personally challenging time for me. And I decided at that moment not to do entrepreneurship again or anytime soon, because it was a real tough blow to my ego, my heart. I'm curious to know, you said you almost went out of bankruptcy in some point in your career. That must have been a scary, trying time for you. How did you deal with it? if you don't mind me asking?
No,
Yeah.
thank you for asking. I'll be delighted to share. But I have to share who I am really, and not try to put on a facade or be politically correct.
Don't go for it, man.
I serve the Lord Jesus Christ,
Okay.
and everything I do is guided and directed by Him. And the way I made it through is He'd given me some promises earlier on that I would never suffer famine among the nations again, that where I'm going is where He's called me to, and He showed me where it's going to be. And so when you know the end of the story, when you know the end of the book, then you can handle all the little ups and downs in between, because you know how it's going to end out. And
Sure.
so that was my rock. My rock, my salvation, my bulwark. You can use all those terms from the Psalms. And when you realize that whatever is going on financially, we looked at our lives and everything was blessed. The only thing that wasn't blessed in the physical was seeing what's going on with the business. But it also, the Chinese have a proverb that out of, the cloud, I forget the exact proverb, but basically the word for crisis is the same word for opportunity. It's how do you respond to it? And it was from that time that we almost went out of business that launched us into this business, which has been one of our greatest businesses. So that's how I did it.
That's a beautiful story. Thank you very much for sharing. Go ahead, John. What were you going to say?
I'm quite moved by that, actually, Beatty. Thank you so much for sharing that, because a lot of people talk about success, but they don't. Most people get to success through a very hard road, a very, very hard road. Most successes are built through 7, 8, 9 years of hard slog, with a lot of dark periods in that slog, aren't they?
Or 13 failed businesses like Lincoln, or 7 failed businesses like, not all of them failed, but 7 past businesses like me. But I agree with that 1,000%.
But I think a lot
wisdom comes hard won.
And I think if you're listening to this, listeners and viewers, if you're in the real estate industry, realize that you've got to have a plan. If the plan isn't working, change it, or seek advice from advisors that really have the best for you. But you've got to have a plan, and as long as you're making those steps in the right direction, keep to the plan. Would you agree with that, Beatty?
I do, and I want to make a comment back to Robert, because I was looking at my list. I actually keep a list of all the businesses I started. So the first one that really took off was business number 11.
Okay.
It's still going, and the one that I'm in now, and business number 11 is actually the backbone behind this business, and this business is number 16. So
nice.
They've all been bootstrapped, never borrowed money to get anything going. It's just been a fun pursuit. It's been, the pursuit of your goal and your dream is more important than the accomplishment of what you have, because what you have is temporary, but it's where are you going now? What's the next step? And that's what keeps driving me.
That's beautiful.
Right. Thank you so much. Thanks for that, Beatty. So we're going to end the show. Hopefully, Beatty will join us later on during the year. He's always got an open invite to come on the show. Hopefully, he come. We always enjoy the interviews with him. And we'll be back next week, folks. See you soon. Bye.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe to it so you never miss another episode. And please like our Get Sellers Calling You Facebook page. Also, if you want to increase sales from past clients and sphere of influence, dominate a geographic farm, or convert home valuation leads, check out our Agent Dominator program. We create custom content that differentiates you from other realtors, then use it to keep you top of mind with your prospects with postcards, targeted Facebook ads, email campaigns, video interviews, and more. And the best part is we guarantee your sales or give all your money back. Learn more at GetSellersCallingYou.com and select Agent Dominator in the menu. Thanks for listening to the Get Sellers Calling You podcast. Have a great day.